Alright guys, welcome back to Teal House Farm. It's early-ish on, I don't even know what day today is. Early-ish in the morning. And I think today I'm going to try something new. So I had to bake a lot of pork for a funeral at church. And I was about ready to throw away the bone from inside of all these pork cuts, which I think were shoulders and pork butts. So it's pretty big, like blade bone. And I was thinking to myself, surely there's something that we could do with this. And so I thought, well, maybe I can make some bone broth. So typically you make bone broth with beef or chicken bones. But I did some research, meaning I went on Google, which is, as you know, you can take from that what you think, to see if you can make bone broth from pork bones. And you can. But the argument is about whether it's as good for you, because the idea is when you use like the beef bones, it's got the collagen and the marrow that are really like good, I guess is the best way to say it, and there's a big quantity of it in beef bones, and so that's one of the reasons beef bone broth is so good for you to use and to drink. Whether or not pork bones have as much and as good quality is kind of something that people debate. Plus pork broth isn't really something that we use traditionally in American cooking. It's more popular in certain types of Asian cooking, and so it's just not something people really think about doing anyway, but I hate wasting things. And so today we are going to make some bone broth with those leftover pork bones, and I'll show you how we do it. And we're going to use a roasting oven, like a big electric roaster oven, so we can make a huge batch. But you could also do this in a crock pot, and it'll take the same amount of time because I'm going to put the oven on really low, so it's basically a giant crock pot. So if you want to make a smaller batch, you could do it in your crock pot. And then we're going to can it, and we're going to do all of this together. And even if it doesn't have the same health benefits as the beef bone broth, it still will make a delicious color and a delicious tasting broth that we can use for a lot of cooking. And anytime we can add something for free to our canning pantry, I am all for it. Saves us money in the long run. So come join me for today and tomorrow, because this is a long process, as we make some bone broth with these pork bones. Okay, first thing I have to do is clear out the oven here of breakfast. I made a Dutch pancake, which is the fastest way to make enough pancakes for all the people we have to feed. So we'll cut that up and get it served so we can get the oven ready to roast some bones and vegetables for our bone broth. First thing we're gonna need here is a large sheet pan, so we'll get that out. And then I've got the bones all in the freezer, in the silicone freezer bag, just kind of saved them until I was ready to do this. We're gonna spread them out on the pan. And we're gonna get some vegetables too. Let's do some carrots. I got a bag of baby carrots, and then we cut some onions in half. We're gonna throw that whole pan in the oven on 400. I check it after 30 minutes, but they definitely aren't ready, so we do another 30. So that's an hour in whole of roasting them in the oven. And I think they're done. I probably could have gone a little bit longer, but I think that looks pretty good. So we're gonna call that good, and we're gonna get our big electric roaster oven out, and we're gonna get ready to make the broth. We put in everything from our pan first into the roaster oven. The oven is not on yet, just leave it off. And then we're gonna add some more vegetables and water. So we need to fill enough water and then at least an inch above the bones. So this is a lot of water. It's gonna take me a second here. I don't have a working sprayer, so we have to fill it manually. And then in the freezer, I have all these veggie scraps, just I've saved when I've been cooking. So we're gonna dump all those in. They're like onion peels and carrot peels and potatoes and things like that. I also have a bag of almost used celery, so we're gonna dump that in too, and that should be plenty. We need to add a 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. This is really important for making bone broth, so don't skip this step. Gonna sprinkle it in there. Okay, we put the cover on, but we're not plugging it in and turning it on yet. First, we're gonna just let it sit in the water with the apple cider vinegar for about 30 minutes. The theory is that the apple cider vinegar will help demineralize the bones, and you'll get some of the good stuff. And you'll get all that good minerals into your broth. Now, I don't know how, I don't have a resource to link for you about whether this has been scientifically proven as true, but this is how we make bone broth, and at the very least, it's not gonna hurt anything. So it's a step that I do. So anyway, I'm gonna get ready for the day. We're just let that sit, and then we'll come back and turn it on, and it's going to cook for a very long time. Ta-da! Ready for the day. They start at school. Let's get our roaster ready to go. We're gonna do it. Okay, so we're going to plug in our roaster here. And this is just low and slow. So we're gonna do about 225. And just to remind you, this is what's in it. So we've got all of our bones on the bottom, which you can't see because they sink. And then we have our roasted carrots and onions too. And then I dumped in the vegetable scraps from the freezer and those celery stalks. One thing I'm not sure about, I read a lot of conflicting things too about whether or not to season your bone broth. So I'd love to know what you do. I'm just going to do it the way I do my chicken and my other broths, which is I don't season them at all. I just do it like this, just plain. And that way when I'm making something with them later, I just season it to taste with what I'm making. But I'd love to hear what you do. Whoa, Annie's going to knock me over. So we are going to let this sit. We're going to check on it at 12 hours, but it could have to cook up to 36 hours, which is a really long time.
Mommy.
Okay, so we got a lot of time today. So we're going to get some school done. Actually, we get a lot of school done today. And then we also have some time for playing. We also ran to town for therapy and gymnastics for the big girls. But don't worry, Sam was home all day, so the roaster oven couldn't catch anything on fire. I don't remember what this is, but they sure had fun doing it. So we basically just left it alone and let the roaster oven do its job. Then I came back before I went to bed that night. So this is probably a good 14 hours later, just to give it a peek. It smells delicious. I know you can't smell it, but it smells delicious. But we're going to let it go all night too. We're going to do a solid 24 hours. Here we are next morning. It's too early to be up, but here we are. And we're going to call it good. It still smells great. It's been in there a little less, maybe an hour less than 24 hours. But we're going to go ahead and strain it out into a big pot. I'm not ready to can it today, so we're going to put it in the pot and put it in the refrigerator. I discover halfway through that pot is not going to be big enough, so we're going to have to find a larger pot here and dig one out because it's not all going to fit in this 2-gallon pot. So I grab out, I think this one's a 4 or 5-gallon pot, and we're going to put it in this big stainless steel pot. We finished straining it. We're going to put the scraps and stuff in our compost pile, so nothing's going to waste here, and that's what it looks like. It looks good. Now the tricky part is to figure out how to get this in the refrigerator, but with some rearranging and moving of shelves, we're able to squeeze that pot in there because I just do not have time to can it today. Okay, welcome back. It is now like a day later. We took out the bone broth and we're heating it up to a boil. We've got our pressure canner. Yes, welcome back to Teal House Farm. We've got our pressure canner warming up as well with about 2.5 inches of water in it. Again, you don't want your pressure canner boiling before you add jars, just so the water's warm. You don't want a hot jar hitting cold water. You might crack your jars. We have our jars sitting in the oven on 220. They have been washed with hot soapy water. If you're pressure canning, you don't need to sterilize your jars, but I always recommend filling warm jars. Since you're going to be putting in boiling liquid, you probably could do it in a cold jar and probably be okay, but I don't recommend doing that. Mason jars are pretty sturdy, but hot into cold is never really a good idea. It's good to do hot into warm. So we're just warming them up enough that when the hot boiling water hits it, we don't have to risk cracking our jars. It's going to take a little bit for this to get up to boiling. Yeah, 1 second, Amy. I did want to mention too, with this bone broth, because it has apple cider vinegar in it, really recommend using a stainless steel pot and not an aluminum pot, which will be a reactive metal. So it's such a big pot. This is several gallons of the bone broth. So it's going to take a little bit to bring this up to a boil. So just warming the jars, warming the canner, going to get our lids clean, and we'll be back in just a second. I did want to show you, because who doesn't like Christmas in March? The girls are making, we have these kits for little gingerbread houses. So they've been making gingerbread houses today.
Harder than you think.
It is pretty hard.
Look what happened to my guy.
Did your dog break?
No, look at him. Half of my sugar cookies were broken when I opened them.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get them, the discount ones.
Mom,
You guys are doing a great job.
I went over a year expired.
They are, but they were free.
Who has the scissors?
Still a fun project, even if don't eat the candy, it's expired.
Gingerbread houses.
Okay, our jars are nice and warm. Kept them in the oven to keep them warm, and we're going to get ready to fill them with our boiling bone broth. First thing, you're probably going to want a wide mouth funnel so we don't make a big mess. And then I prefer to use just a measuring cup instead of a ladle so we can get the jars filled faster. We get them all filled. The most important part here to remember is don't fill a cold jar. It might break on you. Make sure your jars are warm. You can do that in your dishwasher. You can boil them on the stove. You can put them in the oven. Lots of options. Just make sure they're warm. We don't want anybody getting burned from a jar breaking and dripping on your toes. Then we're gonna wipe the rims and we're gonna put on our lids and rings. Do a fingertip tightness on the rings. I can fit 7 quart jars in my canner, so lucky for me, that's what we made today. But I still have lots left over, and I'm gonna put it in this half-gallon jar, which I'm gonna keep in the fridge, and we will use that to make soup later this week. We do our safety checks on the canner, and we get it locked down and ready to go. Okay, once we get up to pressure, which is 11 pounds pressure here, if you're not sure where it is for you, you need to Google your pressure canner altitude chart, and you'll figure it out. It's going to be in the canner for 20 minutes. It's 25 minutes. We're doing quarts, 20 minutes for pints. And you don't start your timer until you are up to pressure. So let's wait.
This is Nanny's store. It's backwards right now. Yes, it's backwards, but Nanny didn't do anything to the front. But she did a lot to the roof. This is Micah's. Mikey accident. Let me name you my employees. So this is Mr. Tree is being taken away. This is Miley. This is Handsome. This is Orangey. This is Sally with red face. And this here is Target Doggy, who's Ivy's got a Scottish dog. Scottish, she says. Scottish.
There we have it. Smells and looks lovely. It really is a very pretty color. The video doesn't really do it justice. It almost has like a hint of purple to it. So excited to use these in soups, especially things that are like Asian inspired meals. Pork broth really gives it a more authentic flavor from just what I've experienced myself. It's not common in the United States, but it's common in other places. And so depending what you're cooking, this is a great addition. And it was free, and it has health benefits. So there you go. Thanks so much for watching.
Bye.
Where's your picture? Oh, good job, JJ. I love your whale.
It's a killer whale.
Is it a killer whale?
Yeah.
You did good. Say bye.
Bye. Yeah.